Hi everyone, Flavia here, and thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I will be showing you all of the note cards that I created using some of Spellbinder's October 2025 clubs, which are all about the holiday. This is actually the second month that they released clubs with a Christmas theme. The first one was in July, Christmas in July, and now again in October, and I am so excited about it because I love creating note cards for the holidays. So as I show you the note cards, I will also be showing you the specific clubs that I used to create each note card, and we're gonna begin with this one. All of my note cards have a craft color envelope. I love using craft color envelopes. I think this goes really well with any color of cardstock, and sometimes when I feel that I don't have the perfect color of envelope to match the note card, I just go ahead and grab a craft one. I think this is a nice color and the quality is pretty good. I feel that my note cards are really protected inside these craft color envelopes. So inside this one we have an adorable Christmas scene. I decided to add a purple die cut bow to the flap of this envelope to go with this little girl that also has pink and purple outfit. So this is an A2 size note card. It is side folding, and inside we have a pretty nice hand stamped message that reads Christmas blessings to you and yours. And at the front I was able to create this scene using, I need to fix this. Using some die plates included in the Spellbinder's small die of the month to hot foil this sentiment, and as well as the background. Notice here that it has a little bit of shine in the back. I used the Spellbinder's Glimmer of the Month for October 2025. To hot foil the sentiment, I used pink foil, and for the background, because I wanted a very subtle effect, I used opal foil. And of course, you know me, I love sparkles, so I decided to go ahead and use flat back rhinestones as Christmas ornaments, and I love the result. So let me show you the clubs that I used. So to die cut most of the elements for this scene, I actually have extra pieces. It was so much fun die cutting and assembling these pieces that I ended up making extra ones for future note cards. So actually with the small die of the month, you can die cut two different cuties, one standing like this and another one like so. Actually, and I didn't use either one of these. I am so confused. So with the small die of the month, which is this one, we have lots of different plates to create an adorable Christmas scene with a large snowman, a Christmas tree, and two different characters, which are these two that I just showed you. But I decided not to use them because I wanted a even smaller person. So I used the large die of the month to die cut this one. So when it comes to the small die of the month, I actually only used the die to cut out the Christmas tree. And we have this die that cuts many different small pieces. We can cut it from white cardstock to resemble snow, which is what I did here. I also used this border plate included in the small die of the month to die cut this snow hill, which is where I decided to hot foil the sentiment Let It Snow and Sparkle. By the way, I did hot foil this section before I glued this white panel to the note card, and this white section actually has a little bit of dimension. I don't know if you can tell, but that is because I used foam adhesive to glue this white panel on top of the front of my note card. Regarding the little girl with a pile of Christmas presents and these adorable Christmas lights, I actually used some plates included in the Spellbinder's large die of the month, which is this one, with lots of different plates to cut out the front of a house, another Christmas tree, lots of details for the house such as curtains, and here is the Christmas light, the plate that I used to cut out the Christmas light. For this note card, I used many of these tiny plates over here to create this little girl and the pile of presents over here. So this is the Spellbinders large die of the month, which is named Window Wonderland. And as we can see here, it has lots of plates that we can use to cut out many different pieces to create a really adorable Christmas scene. By the way, the Spellbinders regular small die of the month is named Snow Day Friends, which is this one. So this is the Snow Day Friends, and this is the Window Wonderland. Now, regarding the background, as I told you before, I used the Glimmer of the Month to add some sparkle to the background as well as to hot foil the sentiment. So for these two parts, I used the Spellbinders Glimmer of the Month for October 2025, and this set is named Magic Wonder. So when we subscribe to the Spellbinders Glimmer of the Month, aside from getting a pretty nice hot foil set, we also get a Spellbinders hot foil roll, and this month's roll is in the color Polished Brass, which is one of my favorites. Actually, I tend to use golden foil most of the time, but I decided to switch things up today and used pink foil instead. So with the Glimmer of the Month, we get this pretty large plate that we can use to hot foil a large panel big enough to cover the entire front of an A2 size note card, which is this one. And we also have 4 plates over here that we can use to hot foil 4 different sentiments. And here is one example. I actually hot foil these onto Spellbinders brushed black cardstock. So these are the sentiment options that we get with the Spellbinders October 2025 Glimmer of the Month. One is Joyous Noel, then we have Merry and Bright, then we have Sending Christmas Magic, and Let It Snow and Sparkle, which is what I used for this note card. So moving on to the second note card. This is a fun one. To make this note card, I actually used the Spellbinders Stencil of the Month, and it was so easy to make this note card. I used the Stencil of the Month, which covered the entire front of the note card, and then I simply stamped a sentiment. Since it's so easy to create, I think that the Stencil of the Month is a very good option for mass producing. So if you need to make many note cards at once, same design, the Stencil of the Month is a good option for that. So here, actually let me show you the stencil first. So the Stencil of the Month for October 2025 is named Frosty Wishes, and it has 5 different layers, which means you will be able to add different colors to different sections of your note card, which is so much fun. So this is layer number, So this is layer number 1, which we can use to add color to the background. Then on top of that, we use layer number 2 for the hat and the cheeks. Then we add this one on top to color the mouth, eyes, and different parts of the hat. Then we have layer number 4 for the nose. And last but not least, layer number 5 to add small details to the head section, eyebrows, accents to the nose, and what is this? Oh, and his scarf, maybe. So this is the note card that I created. By the way, since I messed up when trying to stencil this section for the hat, instead of starting all over, I decided to just cut a piece of glitter cardstock to cover my mistake, and I actually don't mind the extra sparkle. Then for the sentiment, I actually used the Spellbinders Clear Stamp and Die of the Month, which is this one over here. So this is the Spellbinders Clear Stamp and Die of the Month. Actually, I need a white piece of cardstock so you can better see the wonderful sentiments. So with this set, we have a large Christmas tree image, which is pretty nice, not only to make the note cards, but I also used this image to decorate my envelope. Aside from the image, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 really nice sentiment options, such as this one that I used, wishing you a Christmas that feels like home. We also have All is Calm and Bright, Merry Christmas to all, wishing you a season full of wonder, and so many more. So with the Spellbinders Clear Stamp and Die of the Month, we also get the coordinating die plates to cut out these messages or the image if you want to. Of course, we can always, if you want to, stamp the images or the sentiment directly onto your project. projects, but it is always nice to have the option to cut this out if we want to or if we need to. For example, if you're creating a note card and you make a mistake stamping the sentiment onto your note cards, you can always go ahead, stamp the same message onto a scrap piece of cardstock, die cut it, and glue it on top of your mistake to hide it instead of starting all over. So I love always having the option to cut out my messages just in case I want to or I need to. So this is the clear stamp and die of the month, and here is another closer look at the note card created with the Spellbinders stencil of the month. By the way, this is a top folding note card. So moving on, as I just mentioned, I decided to use this large image in the clear stamp to decorate the envelope, and here is the envelope. A tip for you, if you choose to do this, to make sure you get a continuous smooth stamped result, I actually opened my envelope and folded like so and added a piece of scrap cardstock inside to protect my envelope before I stamped it once like this, and then I closed the envelope, I folded the flap over and I stamped it one more time, and that is how you get a nice continuous stamped image. So here is the note card that goes inside. I love this scene. This is an A2 size side folding. However, I decided to create a scene with a landscape orientation. So inside the note card, I stamped Cozy Wishes from Our Home to Yours using the Spellbinders October 2025 clear stamp of the month. At the front, I used the same set to stamp a different message that reads Christmas blessing to you and yours. And to create this adorable winter scene, I used the small die of the month that I just showed you and that I just misplaced. So let me find it. What is it? Okay, here. So this time I decided to add 2 Christmas trees that I created using this large plate. Then, as I mentioned before, we have these large plates to cut out a snowman, which is what I did. And I decided to add these 2 characters to my Christmas scene, and one of them is holding a large snowball. Again, for some sparkle, I decided to add flat back rhinestones, and I love the result. Since all of the different clubs go together so well, it was very easy coming up with all of the different scenes for the note cards that I made today, and that is what I love the most about Spellbinders clubs, is that they all go together really well. By the way, to add some dimension, I did use foam adhesive to adhere this second tree to give the impression that this is at the front and this one is in the back. So this one has more dimension than this one. I'm not sure you can see that. And these 2 characters also have foam adhesive in the back. I don't think you can see it, but you can trust me. These 2 have foam adhesive. So this is the 3rd note card created with some of Spellbinders October 2025 clubs. So let's move these out of the way so I can show you the next 2 note cards. The next 2 are very similar. I only changed the color combo. Again, craft color envelope with a... By the way, to die cut these balls that I'm using to decorate the flap of my envelopes, I used an old set by Spellbinders that is over here. So this is the Spellbinders Christmas Wreath add-on die set with lots of plates to cut out Christmas elements, and one of my favorites is these 3 plates over here that we can use to create this beautiful bowl. And I like this so much that I actually have a drawer filled with these bowls that I cut out in different colors, because I love using them to decorate the flap of the envelope. I think it's just perfect. So moving on to these note cards, here we have 2 similar ones that I created using the Spellbinders Stitching Die of the Month. Isn't this adorable? I love this one. By the way, even though it is a stitching die club, the stitching is optional, and this time, since I was running out of time, I decided to not do any stitching, and I think it looks great either way. Let me just find the set so I can show you. So this is the Spellbinders October 2025 Stitching Die Club. This one is named Peppermint Prancer, and notice here that some of these dies have these tiny holes that we can use to do the stitching. However, if you choose to not do the stitching, you can either use, for example, the two plates together to cut out your pieces, so you can have some of these nice patterns on the paper even though you don't plan on doing any stitching, or you can use only the outline plate to cut out the solid piece without the stitching patterns. It's up to you. This time I decided to eliminate all of the stitching plates, such as this one and this one and this piece for the nose. You can also do some stitching on the nose, and I ended up using only these plates to cut out the solid shapes without the stitching patterns that we get when using these plates. By the way, aside from the plates to cut out a nice adorable prancer and a large peppermint, we also get this plate to cut out the letters Y and J to form the word joy, which is what I did. Again, for the background on both of these note cards, I used that large plate included in the Spellbinders October 2025 Glimmer of the Month, just for some added sparkle. And I actually used Spellbinders cardstock in the color Indigo for my front panel, which is a pretty nice dark navy color. So for these two cuties, I used two different shades of brown cardstock by Spellbinders, and just for fun, I added a very small flat back rhinestone to their nose, which I think it's adorable. For the letters J and Y, since they are very thin, I decided to cut out many layers, and I did stack them up just to make the letters stand out even more. By the way, this is my favorite color of cardstock by Spellbinders, and the color is named Orchid, and this really nice red cardstock by Spellbinders is named Pomegranate. That's perfect for making holiday note cards. It's a really nice red. So these, what else? Oh yeah, we have a stamped sentiment side. They both have the same message, Merry Christmas to all. So these are the two note cards that I created, featuring the Spellbinders Stitching Die Club without any stitching. And that goes to show you that stitching is definitely optional. I do love stitching on note cards. I love the look of a stitched note card. However, sometimes you just don't have time for that much detail. And the good thing about Spellbinders stitching die sets is that it does give you the option to add the stitching patterns or not. They usually give you the two plates, so you can choose what you want to do, and I think that's pretty nice. So moving on, now I'm gonna show you the last three note cards that I created, featuring mostly, by the way, actually before we move on, I want to show you the bonus item for the Kabuto Club for October 2025. So in case you are new to Spellbinders clubs, they offer many monthly club subscriptions, such as 3D embossing folder of the month, large die of the month, glimmer of the month, clear stamp and die of the month, stitching die of the month, and so much more. You can either subscribe to each one of these clubs separately, just to a few of them, the ones that you like the most, or you can subscribe to the Kabuto Club. So when you subscribe to the Spellbinders monthly Kabuto Club, you get not only all of the different clubs, but also a bonus item that can be anything. It's always a surprise. It can either be a die set, a stamp set, a craft tool, an embellishment, you just never know. And this month's bonus item is this tiny die set that works with the stitching die of the month. And the way that these two sets work together is that instead of creating the word joy, you can actually use the letter Y, the peppermint, and the letter U to create the word you, and then we also get the plate that cuts the word for. So instead of joy, you can create the sentiment for you, and again add this cutie on top of the peppermint candy that is supposed to be the letter O. So I think that's pretty smart, and I just love how they made these two sets work together. However, I only found that out after I made my note cards. So instead instead of using these two together, I actually used the bonus item to decorate the flap of my envelopes for the next note cards. So I just used all of these plates to cut out the sentiment for you and the banner Believe in Magic, and I added that to the flap of these two envelopes. This one has a very shimmery die cut bow. So these are the last 3 note cards that I have to show you. And again, to create these beautiful Christmas scenes, I used metal plates included in this large die set that I showed you earlier, released as the Spellbinders Large Die of the Month for October 2025, filled with many plates that we can use to add lots of details to these Christmas scenes. Let's begin with this one in the middle, because this one in the middle is actually featuring the Spellbinders 3D embossing folder that I haven't showed you, which is this one. So Spellbinders embossing folders are pretty large. They measure 8.5 inches long by 5.5 inches wide, perfect for creating various sizes of note cards. And this one is named Brick by Brick. So this is what I used to add texture to the background of this note card. Again, I used the stamp of the month to stamp Merry Christmas to all, and inside is blank. Usually I add a surprise inside, but I ran out of time. So here is a closer look, so you can see all of the amazing details that this note card has. This second note card, instead of adding texture with the embossing folder, I actually used that large plate included in the Glimmer of the Month, and I used the golden foil included in this month's subscription club to resemble a night sky. Everything else is pretty similar. By the way, I did use pattern paper, leftover pieces of pattern paper, to cut out the curtains. Moving on to the third one, this one has a sentiment in Portuguese, Feliz Natal, which means Merry Christmas. For the background, I used an older set, let me see here, not so old actually. I hot foil a panel using this large plate. This set was released as, I'm not sure, but I think that this was released as the Spellbinders July 2025 Glimmer of the Month. So this is a pretty nice option as well to make holiday note cards. So that's what I used to add some sparkle to the background. To make this foiled sentiment in Portuguese, since I can never find sets with messages in Portuguese, what I do is I type and print the sentiment using a LaserJet printer, and then I use deco foil and a laminator to hot foil the sentiment that I printed with a LaserJet printer, and then I cut it out using a rectangular shaped die plate. Everything else is pretty similar, and I just love the amount of details that we can add with the large die of the month. So this is all that I have for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video and felt inspired to create. If you're interested, I have listed in the description box down below all of the supplies used to make these note cards. And remember, you can always head over my blog for pictures and more information. By the way, let me know in the comments box down below which note card is your favorite. As always, thank you so much for joining me today and watching this video until the end. I hope you have a wonderful day, take care, and happy crafting!